Killers of the Flower Moon. That's right, folks. 80-year-old Martin Scorsese is back with a new release that is getting wide distribution. There was a brief moment where this was going to be limited release and then dumped, I say dumped loosely, onto Apple. For some reason, I guess maybe now that the movie situation of the end of the year is looking very bleak, Apple is like, we could get a couple millions if we put it into theaters. They're doing the same for Napoleon by Ridley Scott. So clearly, Apple's winning the streaming war because they know if we even put it in a theater, new people are going to see it. Then they'll be like, oh shit, Apple's is a thing that's making movies and stuff? I guess I'll get Apple TV. But it's Martin Scorsese. That name alone is like hearing the godfather of modern cinema just speak to you on a fundamental creative level. I really like Scorsese. I've talked about it a lot. He's a great filmmaker. He is probably the most important man in films who talks about the experience, the history, who supports like preserving the history of film and exploring the different routes. He likes genres. He likes characters. He loves this medium. And it's really cool to see that. And while I wasn't the biggest fan of The Irishman, which was his last film released on Netflix, it was on a film I enjoyed. I look back on that film with a certain fondness for like, oh yeah, this is from the perspective of a man who is thinking he said it all, where suddenly he doesn't need to say anything else. And that's a really interesting thing to see from a creator in a movie I'm not the biggest fan of. And when I've talked about The Irishman on this channel, it was when I still didn't really find my voice as a critic. I was trying to speak a certain way, create a certain type of energy. That's not the energy I want to bring to this. Well, I have seen The Irishman since that review I did. It's still not a movie I love and enjoy. It's not high up on my list. Killers of the Flower Moon is one of these films that just reminds me there is a creative drive that can be found in this industry, and that there is still something missing from today's crops of creators and directors and writers and storytellers that just, they don't have this yet. You know, I think you could look at some of today's talented auteurs. Jordan Peele, Gerwig, Ari Aster, just these people that are about to take on this role that Scorsese has built and the others have built. And you can see, like, they're still leading up to, like, just his competence. Like, the thing about Killers is it's a very competently made film. It is not showy. It is not flashy. It is not trying to prove to you that we can do these new techniques or change the game. It's very much, this is the story we're telling. Here's the perfect way to place the camera. Here's the perfect set for the actor to be in, the perfect lighting for the actor to present in, the perfect way to edit the shot. We hold for a long time. Sometimes we just completely cut to a new scene, and it works every single time. There's not a piece of editing in this film that is off, not a piece of composition that is off. Every part of this film is just perfectly curated to give you an experience. That's so incredible. It is so non-showy while just being a very beautiful movie. It's nothing looks like this. And it's not doing anything particularly like intense or surreal or changing the landscape. It is just, these are movie stars. These are actors who are so interesting and compelling. Every single background performer, every single character actor is so interesting to look at that we're getting this beautiful story just woven together from them. And it's so cool. This is based on true events. It's from the Osage tribe who have land that is in their history that is where a bunch of oil sprung up and suddenly this town flourished. And when the new blood came in of like this building America, like this America suddenly trying to like survive in the Midwestern, like the middles of the states, and these new people come in, fresh blood trying to build up, this place becomes a very hostile environment with these young up-and-comers, these white men trying to take the women, take the land, take the money, claim it as their own. It is a very personal film in so many different aspects, a very interesting story that is worth talking about. Now, I would be hesitant to not bring up the importance of the narrative that we're weaving here. This is Osage story. This is an Osage story. Scorsese is not Osage. I am not Osage, so I am going to be perceiving this film and experiencing this film in an entirely different way than somebody of a Native American heritage would. You know, like, and you've seen reports from the red carpet and like producers and people that worked with Scorsese from the tribe and from the culture that have like influenced the story and helped him figure out the tale. They've spoken openly. There's been people openly speaking about like it would have been nice to see like an Osage director, an Osage writer tackle this story. And I think that is true. And it's so interesting because I can't see a better interpretation of this than what we got. Maybe that's because, one, I am so used to Scorsese, this white filmmaker telling this type of story about the crime running rampant in like a place that he's familiar with. And I also don't know enough Osage directors or talents in the industry to truly understand what they're doing there. This has the Oppenheimer thing. And the Oppenheimer thing is like, there's the cry out to, we should have seen like the fallout of what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And maybe we should have. But if we're solely focusing on like the one aspect of that event, you don't need to see that. What Scorsese does really well is balance both. We're watching the fallout of this family trying to gain political power in this town mixed with the way the townspeople are reacting to it. No part of this movie is like negatively portraying the Osage. No part of this movie is like supporting the actions of the white people. I just think if you are of a smaller mindset and you don't like white people in your movies being portrayed as villains, you're going to think this is woke or Martin Scorsese getting political. But this is the same type of drama that he's been telling in things like The Gangs of New York or Goodfellas. Like, he loves this type of story of the people who should have the thing and the people that want it. That is something he is really good at portraying, something he knows how to tell. It is very interesting how he handles both of them because the culture is both presented perfectly. He gives the perfect send-off to like everything that this story needs to be for them. He gives you like very intimate, detailed moments of like why this tribe is fearing for their life and why they're afraid of like what's happening to them and what's going on. It's done so intimately and so powerfully, and it's really impressive. Yes, an Osage director could have told this story differently and perhaps better. Maybe the focus should have been on Molly. But the thing is, this is Scorsese, and he knows what to do with both Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. And by that I mean he knows that these two guys are actors people will come out to see. People want to see a De Niro movie, people want to see a DiCaprio movie. He's going to do his very best to make them the most disgusting, corrupted, insufferable people in this movie. DiCaprio in this movie is on a whole other level of just irritating and despicable. He knows what he's doing is wrong and only gets a conscience when he gets caught. And he is just a huge idiot, a dumbass. He is stupid. And I could make the argument, I'm not going to, I think he has had better roles, but you could make the argument this is the most like authentic portrayal of Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor because he never comes across as a guy who is smart. And that seems more like what DiCaprio is. So you can play it off like, oh, he's such a good actor. Look at him like playing the role of an idiot. Well, I don't think DiCaprio is like a genius in real life. So this character who just does stupid stuff at the whim of the guy who's controlling him, which is his uncle or Martin Scorsese, that's a very believable thing to see from this. And it's a very solid performance from Leo. You see the specific moments where he's going for it. You see the moments where he's just scrunching his face. He's like, I'm doing my accent thing. And it's fine. The problem is, you know what Leo is. And when you see the Leo-isms appear, there is harshness to that. You're like, yeah, I don't really want this. You can't buy him as a young man anymore. Do you know that both Brendan Fraser and Jesse Plemons in this movie called him young boy and like boy? And I'm like, they are contemporaries to you. Fraser, a little bit older, Plemons, a little bit younger, but you are not a 30-year-old man. You are going to be 50 very soon. You cannot play young anymore. It's not believable. It's really weird. That was really weird. I'm like, quit calling him a boy. This is a grown-ass man. This is a guy that should have kids the age of the women he is dating. Do not call him boy. Same with De Niro. In terms of just like, this is like what we want to see from De Niro. He's had a very interesting 2020s, not a lot of great stuff. When he just like shows up to deliver, he can still deliver. Does this performance make my top 5 best supporting? I don't know. It is very solid, and it's one of those things, it's almost the opposite of what DiCaprio is doing. It's so non-showy, it's so competent, where he's just like, yeah, I'm a bad guy, I get it, I can just walk in and do that, while still like, presenting that I care about this town. It is so believable, and it works so well for him. And they're good. When they're together, they're good. You have 2 actors who are very capable and understanding. You have a director that knows how to use them. And he's making them the biggest dicks of the movie. So that is what Scorsese is saying here. It would have been great if an Osage director told it through the eyes of Molly, through the eyes of her family, through the eyes of the community. But when you have Martin Scorsese doing it with Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, his 2 actors, and you have this town of white people who are angry at these Native Americans for no real reason because they're rich, you know what the director is saying. He's not in support of any of it. I do get the criticism why people would be like, why are we telling this story this way? I think what Scorsese is doing with what he knows how to do, it's working against that perfectly. The real standout of this movie, and I'm not the first to say it, I'll reiterate it forever, is Lily Gladstone, who is so good. So freaking good. Performing on an intensity and another level I have never seen, where it is so soft, so quiet, starkly intimate and personal, and it's all in the expressions, and she has such good face in this movie. Every time she smiles or frowns or is in pain or is aware of the situation, you buy every second of it. You know she's the smartest person in the room, and you know that DiCaprio is the dumbest, and he thinks he's the smartest, and she knows that he doesn't know that he's the dumbest. It works so well. Her performance is the only one in this movie that made me cry. The things that this woman, who is a real woman, had to go through are intense and scary and terrifying. And so much of that just comes from, like, you slowly see she is happy to fall in love. She starts to see the patterns forming around her life, and the desperate, oh my God, the desperate pleas. The plea that she gives to, like, people of power in America is some of the most heartbreaking thing you have ever seen. Like, this woman who is on the verge of collapse, and she's probably going to die, and knows that this has to happen, and she just leads this huge investigation to the town. It is so great and powerful, and my God, what a talent. Lily Gladstone, my favorite performance of the year, arguably. I'm so impressed with the simplicity, the accuracy, and the finality of everything she did. It's such a quiet intensity that you rarely see on this scale. And that is so impressive to see. And on that scale, too, we have so many background actors. We have real sets we're working with, so many beautiful things. There is a huge number of Native American actors and actresses that appear in this film, and that is a really cool thing to see. It's very fun and very positive that this is like supporting that community. We're going to have actors, we're going to have like real people from the community and the tribe help us tell this story. It's a really fun scale to see that played on. And it just makes you feel like, yeah, there is so much more of these stories that we haven't explored because Hollywood has been whitewashing its existence for decades. But now that Scorsese's like, we need to tell these stories, we should tell these stories, he is going to push this forward. I think this movie, maybe not like financially success on like a cinematic release like scale, but just like people talking about it is going to open the door to those larger stories. And again, directing great, the writing is great. The pace of the movie is really strong. It is 3 hours and 30 minutes. I know that's going to turn a lot of people off to that. And where The Irishman wasn't for me, because a lot of that did feel like we were dragging out a scene, this is just some actors together doing intimate scenes on a scale we rarely see anymore. It is so personal, so powerful, so creative, and you never feel the time drag out. There are definitely tonal shifts where you're like, here's the fun beginning, things are about to get real, here's where the gangster stuff comes in that Marty likes to play with. Then we get the trial stuff, the bigger sequences that show up. It's all handled beautifully. None of it feels boring. None of it feels like it needs to be cut. This is as long as it should be. And I'm sitting there in the theater. I could tell we're wrapping up. And then in the last 4 minutes of this movie, two sequences happened that literally took my breath away, where I'm like, I can't believe you're ending it like this. It is very cool. It is so unique. And it's such a powerful ending to this story, because it then makes it feel like it's part of real history. It is part of real history, but the way the ending is portrayed is this is a thing that people would know about this incident. It would just become these mass scale murders of Native American men and women by these white people looking to gain power and favor in this town. They just become another piece of the history books that is looked over. This movie does reference the events of Tulsa a lot too, which is around the same time that this would be happening. And in Tulsa, the Tulsa massacre, there is a clear thing Scorsese is trying to say here, and it is being said. And not everybody that's white is going to like that, but these things need to be said, and it's powerful. A fantastic movie. In an October that has felt fine, this is a modern blockbuster that is taking huge risks, is telling a very intimate and personal story with some of the best moments of these actors' careers, doing something completely unique and telling a story that needed to be told. We need to make more movies like this. It's going to be hard to get them made and get them into theaters, especially when Scorsese and Ridley Scott are 80, but we need to try to do it more. These matter and they're important, and it's such a cool movie to experience and something that is worth watching. My God, was this a treat. Just being able to sit there in this stunned silence for 3.5 hours watching this unfold, watching an audience grasp it, just being no, we want these compelling stories. We want to see movie stars. It's really cool. There's definitely more to the story than what the movie presents. Of course, if you want to see the real history, I do recommend investigating it yourself. Not even coming up to your own answers, just seeing more of what was maybe left off the table, more of the cinematic washing that isn't there, But Lily Gladstone, my God, woman, you are phenomenal, and I hope this makes you want to stay in this industry. I know there are reports of you wanting to leave, but you can't leave us now. You're getting that Oscar, babe. You're getting the Oscar, and if you're not, we riot in the streets. You're coming home with it. What a great movie. What a great movie. My God. So, Killers of the Flower Moon. I am going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.